Hey guys, it's Corey Stanley with Navionics. We're about to get started here shortly. Go over a couple of things real quick before we do get started. We're going to save all questions until the end. I'm going to try to make this short and sweet, stay in the 30-minute, 35, 40-minute time frame. And I'll try to the last 10 minutes or so, we'll go over questions. What we'll do with questions is on the chat feature on the bottom or on the right-hand side there on the webinar options. I'll just have you type your questions at the end, and I'll go back and I'll go over them out loud and answer all of them. Can everyone hear me okay right now? If you can, someone type in the chat there that if my volume and everything's coming through okay. Okay, I see my volume's going good. All right, guys, tonight's webinar is going to be over planning strategies from home. I know there's we're all facing a little bit of adversity right now throughout the country, and take 30 minutes or so to kind of take our mind off of it, go over some things that I'm doing to prepare for when tournaments do start back up, and things that I typically do anyway throughout the season that I do from home that may help you be a little more efficient on the water. We're going to start out, I'm going to go over some mapping things, like things I'm looking for right now as the different times of year, or everything's changing with seasons. I'm based out of Orange, Texas. My home lake is Sam Rayburn, so I'm going to use that as my reference point on as far as patterns and things of that nature. So far, we've been very fortunate there. They haven't shut down the lake, so I've still been able to spend a good bit of time on it. Things are a little different this year with seasons. We've had a real warm winter, but it's kind of kept the water temperature in the low to mid, low 60s up to around 70. So it's kind of made the actual spawn linger a little longer than normal. Whereas right now we would typically be gearing up strictly for the shad spawn. It's happening some, but it's kind of pushed it back a little bit. And this one will be live webinar. I'm going to go over, I'll share my screen here in a minute once we get going on to show my map, some things I'm looking for now that are the shad spawn is starting, where those transition routes for those fish who just spawned, as they're moving out, they guard fry and they move out and they start feeding. But anyway, again, I'm Corey Stanley, and we're going to go and get started and look at a few different things on the map before we work into different tackle options and things like that. All right, guys, everyone should be able to see the map now. This is actually the Navionics web app. It's the free mapping that shows, you're basically looking at the Navionics database. When you're looking at this, be sure to always toggle in this bottom left-hand corner. You see Navionics or sonar chart. Always toggle that sonar chart. As you can see from a bird's eye view there, when you turn it on, you actually get a lot of contour lines. And what that is, the sonar chart layer, for anyone who's not familiar with that, is basically where all of your new updates go, whether it be anglers, whether it be, sonar or boat recordings. That's where all of our new, updates go. So we'll dive right off into the fishing. So we're kind of going through a phase right now at Rayburn, like I said a minute ago, that the spawn's winding down. There's a few, there's a few lingering there, but most fish are post-spawn, and they're kind of the shad spawn starting, the brim spawn's a little bit further out. So now it's kind of a time that they'll stay shallow and then move out deep as quick as possible as the sun gets up. That early morning bite is real key because that's when the shad are up spawning. What I typically look for on this time of year is anywhere that they can be shallow, but then real close to deep water. So prime example, so anyone who's familiar with Rayburn, this is Veach Basin, one of the most popular areas on the lake. It's got basically, it's a huge area of the lake, which Rayburn is already a big lake. You can spend all day in here. What I like to look for there is sharp creek bends on real shallow points. Prime example is, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but I kind of zoomed in right here. You got a point, a steep contour that goes right up next to it, which is a straight drop. So those fish can be first thing in the morning feeding right there, and then once they feed, gorge themselves, they can ease right back out in deep water, and they're, a cast away type thing, 50, 60 feet away, and they're right back in deep water, kind of hanging out until they start feeding again. To me, yes, you can catch fish everywhere, but to me, that's how you can be most efficient. Keying on stuff like this. Again, you got a little secondary point that sticks out right here. You got two little indentions, little ditches that kind of run up to the bank there. Those fish can be in the middle between those indentions, feeding first thing in the morning, top water swim jig. There's a lot of hay grass right now in Rayburn, so those fish will get up on those shallow points that are full of hay grass, and the shad will be all up in it, and then they'll just go crazy busting them. So outside edges of it, throwing a big top water. Swim jig bite's been great right now, which is a lot of fun. So it's Rayburn, it's it's braid, it's power fishing all day. So it's which, as you can key on the shad spawn, it can be every cast. You get on the right little stretches with that shad spawn. But as the sun gets up, those fish get a little harder to catch. They'll still move up, but to me, that's where fishing real close to deep water is a big deal, because on the beginning of May up through mid-May, when the water temperature is still in the low to mid 70s, you can actually throw a top water all day long on Rayburn and catch them pretty well. And your bites go down once the shad spawn ends, but again, it's still those fish hanging out. We try to key any of those hard bends that are on secondary points. Seem like points really are the big thing you're looking for, this time of year, as those fish are done spawning, now they're feeding. And then this little area, you just got a ton of that here. You got you got a secondary point here, deep water out in front of it. Plenty of vegetation, for those fish to hang around. They can move out once they're done feeding. They move right back in. Typically I'm sticking with braid and either, and a lot of white stuff. I like a big river to sea rover. I like getting into a white 6-cent swim jig, 6-cent dogma, those type baits. A spro, just a white or a silver colored frog on the edges of that grass, and it can be a lot of fun right now. But to make yourself most efficient, and this is all things you can actually cover while you're at home looking at this webinar. You can go through, at the web app, I'm sorry. Go through here. You're going up, hey, we're going up fun fishing this weekend. The shad spawn's happening. That's one of those things you can actually key on and find several of those spots. Like, pick out of each basin area, a huge area that you can spend all 2 or 3 days in and not cover the whole thing, and pick out 10, 15 of those spots and start hitting them. Hey, that point, secondary points are better, or main lake points are better, and then just start narrowing that window down to where you're a lot more efficient and not just going down a bank with, trolling motor, just looking for fish. That's one thing I do, and it's a little different now, being, our lakes are open, but all of our tournaments are put on hold. So, you're kind of, at any minute now, there's some things starting to open back up. We're hoping maybe into this month, maybe see a few tournaments. So you're kind of having to prepare for a moving target. They keep getting pushed back. So right now I'm taking that time, and we'll go over this a little more in a minute. I've got a few pictures and stuff, doing some rigging on my boat, trying to transition tackle in and out of my boat. I'm going to, like, if you're there at Sam Rayburn, you're December, January, February, rattle trap bites real good. I'm sure anyone's familiar with Rayburn has heard the, ripping a trap out of the grass. So all my lipless crankbait boxes now can come out of the boat, because it's not typically something I do once the water warms up. Same with soft plastics, whereas, your winter time, I'm throwing a lot of Carolina rigs, but it's going to be stuff like lizards and, brush hogs. Whereas once the summer gets up, we transition more into throwing a fluke on a Carolina rig, or going to just a single big worm. So going through organizing, making sure I've got all of that stuff accounted for, in transition, not having too much tackle on the boat, so I'm not taking up space, killing speed on top end, and just so I'm not foaming through things. I can be a lot more efficient and, maximize my time on the water. As we know right now, time is definitely a commodity because of everything we're facing throughout the country. So we'll look a little bit into, moving on from the mapping, now some of the things, I kind of want to go over a few things that I'm doing in my boat. Now is a perfect time. You spend a lot of time at home preparing for when tournaments start. Let me share this other screen. So like right now, I've actually had a little bit of time off from tournaments. Texas tournaments are absolutely insane. Even local tournaments where you have tournaments every weekend. I think Rayburn has around 400 tournaments a year on it. Same with Toledo Bend. They're side by side. So I'm actually having a little bit of time right now to prepare things. Here it's been the spawn. In the meantime, my new bass boat technologies mounts have come in for my front graph. It's came in. My extra Helix 12s come in, all preparing for my my Humminbird 360 to be put, on my Ultrex. Trying to get all that stuff ready. So now is a great time. That's maintenance on your boat, I guess is what I'm getting at. And by maintenance, on my Skeeter FXR, this is one of the things I'm doing. As you can see, this is kind of how the boat comes standard. This boat came with just a single Helix 12 in bracket. And I decided, I'm going to add a 360. So to me, I like to have up front, I like to have a standalone map and with a 2D and DI split. And then I like to have a standalone unit for my Humminbird 360. You can see here, new bass boat technology mount, Helix 12, super easy install, the most durable mounts that I've ever used. They use your factory mounting holes so that you don't have to drill holes in your boat. That was always kind of one of my big downfalls to say like a ram mount is the fact I've got to drill holes for it. Whereas I'm running a 2020 Skeeter FXR 21. This uses all of my stock mounting holes. I didn't have to drill any holes in the boat. So whenever I get ready to sell it, if whoever's interested in buying the boat wants to go to one graph, I can pull it off, no holes in the boat, put it right back to stock. Kind of got a few pictures of the install. It literally took me about an hour to take one graph off, put another graph, and add 2 more to it, wiring everything in. Super easy install, and now you don't have to worry. Upgraded the mount, whereas that mount that was there was a little flimsy. You could see a lot of vibration when you're running. Now you can take it away from front of the boat. Now I don't have to worry about damaging my electronics, damaging my boat, ripping screws out, that sort of thing. Kind of just a step-by-step deal of it. Here's the I took all the existing things, the existing graph and mounts off the boat. Got the new bass boat technology mount put in place. As you can see, like I said, it uses all the stock holes. Looks like it was made for the boat, the boat came with it. And then real compact, I was able to add 2 Helix 12s on the front of the boat. Whereas I use the bottom graph will stay split screen map, 2D DI. The top one is my Humminbird 360 Mega. I haven't got around to putting it in yet. Summertime's getting here. That offshore thing's going to really start heating up. So that'll be a key piece of equipment for me moving forward. Kind of a side view of it, and then the top view of how those graphs lay out. Like I say, you can grab the side of that mount right there, and the whole boat shakes on the trailer. Nothing moves on that mount, nothing flexes. It's rock solid. Something else, going through inventory. That is one of the biggest things in the world to me that I can't stand being at a tournament realizing I left something in the garage or I left something, I've got line on a pegboard, now I've got to go spend money. So I'm not being efficient, I'm wasting money. One of the things I do, so this is how I carry my bulk spools of line. This is actually a Sims reel bag. I have no affiliation with Sims. It's just a really cool product. And I actually got my hands on one. A co-owner jumped in my boat. That's how he carried his reels from tournament to tournament, since you're carrying them in the backseat of a car or whatever. I got to looking at it and thought it'd be perfect for bulk spools of line. You can see all my sunlines in here. So I'm a big fan of the FC Sniper, and I try to buy it in either 660 or 1200 yard spools. FX2 braid, mono. I like to use Sunline Suffix. Just Suffix mono. I don't use much mono, very, very little, as I'm starting, everything's going to braid. Sam Rayburn you can always use braid on Rayburn Toledo Bend, unless you're, about the only time I go to fluorocarbon is if I'm fishing deep, big worm, cranking, that sort of thing. This allows me to open it up real quick. All the labels are up. I can see what I've got. I can make a list of what to order. And then when it comes time to doing that, an awesome place is brand new that just opened up. The storefront's been in business for quite some time, but now they actually have an online store. Any of you guys are familiar with this area, or it's actually a national loan. Jordan Lee's a big guy with them. The Tackle Addict store. So this place is it's huge. There's one right there on the banks of Sam Rayburn. Buddies with the guy who owns it, Shane Campbell. Great guy, very knowledgeable. They carry everything you need as far as what they're using right now on Rayburn. All high-end products. That's basically where I order my line from. Either I swing in the store, or now with that, they've just got their website online, got it live. So now, super easy. I can come in. They've got it all set by brand, very similar to how like a tackle warehouse is. Difference thing for me, this guy's local. I'm always trying to support local businesses. As you can see, all my fluorocarbon is a Super FC Sniper. Big fan of it. And the website makes it awesome because you can just come right here. Hey, I need, I'm 90% of my fishing is 20-pound test. Come down here, the yardage, either a 1200 or a 660 spool. I just feel like it's more efficient. You don't waste as much line. And then I typically run the clear. It shows you what you're going to be getting. How many's in stock, if it's sold out. The awesome thing with him, you order something, he had like a specialty line. They have so much volume going through that store. It may say sold out. He can make a phone call and have it there in a couple of days. So it's another great option for getting what you need. That's the fluorocarbon that I use. Braid. And you got filters on the left-hand side, so it makes it super easy, super fast. FX2 braid, 60 and 80. If we're flipping matted hydrilla, I'll go up to an 80. 90% of my frogging and flipping though is done with 60 in the dark green. And now they have it in 600-yard bulk spools, so that makes it nice, especially in that tackle bag, like I was just showing you how you can keep it all separated. And like I said, this is all things we can be doing from home, getting ready for when we can start back fishing. Hey, they say go on tournaments. We're right back. Everything's ready. Everything's rigged. We've got everything we need. We step right back in like we never missed a beat. Let's see. And like we were talking earlier about the plastics, going through tackle, getting some tackle in and out of the boat. One of the things I like to do is how I store my plastics. Let me go back to the video here real quick. Kind of give you an idea of what I do with my plastics. So I'm big on just taking, these are actually Outlaw Outdoors, a tournament circuit here makes these, or has them made. All these are basically 1 gallon Ziploc bags, a zipper style. And you see I label them flukes, what they are. And then I leave them in their original package. In the original Zoom package, coloring. I try to simplify things. I only carry about 3 colors. Watermelon candy, green pumpkin magic, that sort of thing. As you can see, they're all in their original packages. Thumb through them. That way you get two forms of keeping them sealed. So their original package is sealed, plus you have the zipper on top of the bag. I keep them. I put them in a storage bin, sitting straight up like this in the back of the boat. I can thumb through them, see at the top it says flukes, boom, they're right there. Again, like the lizards, did the same thing with them. So I've got 10, 12 of these things for lizards, brush hogs, flukes, crawl worms, jig trailers. To me, it's just going from the Plano boxes into these bags take up a lot less room. It's super easy for me to just throw some in and out of the boat, or if I'm jumping in the boat with a tournament partner. This makes it easy for me to be able to be efficient in and out of boats, getting ready to fish. Trying to think, that's my main tackle, that I can take stuff in and out of the boat really quick, real efficient. All my hard baits are in the 3,700 boxes from Plano, and then all my plastics are in those. As the season changes, I can take things in and out. Like I said, traps, jerk baits, all that stuff's coming out of the boat. Top water, all my frog boxes, all that back in it. Get back to the map here. Like I said, guys, this chart viewer, it's actually called a chart viewer. I kept calling it a web app. That's what it used to be. So as you see, it's Navionics, a Garmin brand. They have combined all their mapping into one database now, so everyone gets the best of both worlds. So if you see it on here, you should be able to see the exact same thing on here as far as detail that you do in your graph. If you see more detail on the chart viewer than you are on your chart plotter, then you need to update your card. And you can kind of see going through different places. I mean, you can toggle on and off the sonar charter feature. Some places you can see big changes. Some places they kind of stayed the same. This is another area up here. This is Bird Island. This is 147 Bridge up here. A lot of tournaments are going up here. It's no different than in the wintertime. So what I'm looking for, these fish transition deep water wintertime, come up these drains, and they'll stop on these, like you can see here. So you got a hump right here with a sharp contour. So you got a heavy creek beam that runs right around that hump. That's the type of stuff I'm looking for if I'm throwing top water all day. Or either a swim jig, or if I'm going to flip hay grass points. I mean, that's the areas that I'm looking for. Somewhere they can be up shallow early and ease back out. Where springtime, all these fish are going to move back here in the backs of some of these flats. But as it starts warming up, they're going to start slowly. As they quit guard and fry, they're going to slide back out. Deeper water feed, and then then you'll have about mid-May, you'll have the brim spawn start. They all move right back, up. You can start running the brim spawn pattern, because those fish are just hanging out outside of it, and that's when you go back to steal these little flat pockets of sand that are close to deep water. And here you got between these islands, a lot of willow trees and stuff on these points. So I mean, that's definitely a good spot to key on. Guys, that was the bulk of what I was going to try to cover. I went a little bit long. I was going to try to keep it under 30 minutes. We'll open the last 5 minutes or so up to questions. If you would, just go down in the chat section and just type whatever questions you have, and I'll try to answer them best I can. Okay. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I see there's a few in the question spot. All right, here we go. All right. Captain John McCappin asks, with the vegetation, wouldn't this also be primary for spawning crappie? It definitely is, and that's kind of one of the things that's tough right now on Rayburn. The crappie bite's awesome, but there's some on piles, there's some, but the bulk of them are up over the top of that hydrilla spawning. So right now they're absolutely killing them by throwing little Roadrunner jigs, that sort of thing, over the top of the grass, either trolling with a trolling motor, throwing them out, or just simple casting. And there is guys, some of the shallower brush piles that are really producing, because those fish are kind of in between. All right, Patrick Rector asks, how do you know when the fish are spawning, when it's starting, and when it's ending? All right, spawning is I I've always kind of, some of your older guys around the lake have always told, when you think they're starting, they already have. And kind of when you think it's over, they're still spawning. But I always key on, once that water temperature starts getting, say, over 55, 56 for Texas, and you start looking at full moons. Once you get anywhere around 60 degrees, that first full moon, you're going to have a wave of fish move up. And then it's kind of just a trial and error. You put trolling motor down and just cruise in the backs of those, and you'll have those same spawning pockets over and that they keep producing over and over again. That you can put trolling motor down, put it on high, and that's the biggest thing when your guys who are successful spawning, fishing the spawn for tournaments. That's what they're doing. They're going to live and die by it at least for half the day, and they're going to have the trolling motor on high, stand on the front of the boat, going down these banks just looking, and and not to try to stop and catch that fish. Mark that fish with your, drop a waypoint on it and move on down the bank. See how many is in that cove. Maybe go down a couple hundred yards if you're not seeing it, and go back to that fish. Let it calm down. You know where it's at. Ease in there without spooking it. And that's a much better way than trying to, you see it, trying to turn your trolling motor around, because if you blow mud or silt across it, that fish is going to be spooky. He's going to be tough to catch. All right, Tom Greenwood asked, how do you search out productive shad spawn areas? So that's where I'm looking for those channel swings, or the shad are going to spawn. If you have rock, like there's a few rock bank areas there that have, like the side of a highway. There's a lot of rock there that it drops off 20 feet. That's a prime shad spawn. They'll be up on those real hard banks. Clay points, they'll be on it, and then also but that hay grass typically grows on a harder bottom, so they'll be on the sand all up in through that grass, spawning on hard surfaces. And so just as many of those type areas, and that's why I was saying look for that kind of thing on main lake stuff. I try to stay out of the back of pockets. I try to key on halfway on the big pockets back out, looking for channel swings next to points. Jim Wrigley asked, when the low light flurry of the shad spawn fades, what are your next steps to locate active bass? Typically, I'll back off those same areas that I was catching them on top water. Say if it is the side of a highway, I've been catching them on top water. Boom, sun's up, it kind of dies down. You can actually pick up like a Lucky Crab jerkbait, catch a few more like that. Go back down some of those same stretches in that 6 to 8 foot of water. Some of those fish are just kind of hanging out down there. An A-rig, backing off of that. And then once that whole thing dies down, they do get a little less active. I actually like to kind of back out in that 10 to 12 and go back down that same, with like a hard head, a biffle head, with a biffle bug, just slowly cranking it through there. And you can always pick up a few more stragglers and then kind of move on. And then a lot of times you can back, and then once that's over with, go out and start either hitting off secondary points, cranking or dragging, and it kind of slow down in the middle of the day. But and then there's days that if you have good decent wind and clouds, the only days it's real tough is if it's just dead calm, no wind, no clouds. If you have a little bit of wind, a little bit of clouds, you can actually stick to running those points. The amount of bites will go down, but your quality will stay. You can run those points as often as you like. And if you get a bite on one, you can typically go back to that same point later in the day, an hour later, and get another bite. Typically, they're always good quality. Todd Grimwin asked me, do you use the Platinum 3D mapping? I run a Platinum card. I don't use the 3D mapping as much, just because of the fact now, like on Rayburn, you don't have as big of drops like you do where you actually see a lot of detail. Whereas like when we went to Table Rock Lake, yeah, there's a ton because you have so many steep drops and hard turns, and the 3D mapping is awesome there because you have 60, 70 foot drops and real close to the bank. Whereas Rayburn, your typical average depth, 25, 30 foot is about your deepest you're going to see there. Obviously you got river channels, you have some, but say 80% of your lake, you just don't see a ton of detail in it because of the fact of there's just not a ton of like just deep, steep drops. On that relief shading, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it, spaced way out. Or zoomed out. You can see some on Rayburn, but nothing like you can say at Table Rock Lake, or even like a Fort Gibson Lake in Oklahoma, where there's some little bit deeper water. David Wells asked, how long does the shad spawn typically last? Does it mimic the bass spawn? Typically, the shad spawn happens right after the bass spawn, and it'll last. Normally, it's about a 2-week window, 2-3 week window maybe. Yeah, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks average. There is times it can last longer on different parts of the lake, all depending on, say you're northern in the lake. We'll use Redmond for example. It heats up a little quicker, a little bit dirtier water, so it'll happen up there, say real quick, like end of April. It's probably happening right now. Whereas down by the dam, where the water is about 5 or 6 degrees cooler, it's real clear water. It'll last well up almost into Memorial Weekend there. John Debris asked, what rods are you using? So right now I'm using all Lew's rods and reels. I started looking into, and I have for the last 4 or 5 years. Huge fan of their product. A real good friend of mine is now the account manager at TFO Rods. I've kind of looked at some of their stuff. They offer some really good products, but as of now, I'm strictly all Lew's rods and reels. Captain John McAlpin asked me, will Navionics be adding some of the app features like fishing ranges to the internet-based online charts? So I don't have a clear answer for that. They're on that phone app because of the fact they're not the data. I don't know. It's kind of you just don't have the features there, and I'm not sure exactly why, honestly. I know the app has a lot more features than you can do even on your chart plotter, and that's simply just because of say your Lowrance or your Humminbird won't unlock some of those features for you to be able to use them. But yeah, I don't know that they'll ever. I don't know if it's just taking up too much space on the website type thing. I'm not sure what the reasoning is on not having some of those features. I mean, you have some of them, but not quite all of them. I mean, like if you go here, you've got some of your map options there. You know, your satellite, you know, your terrains, your safety depths, and some of your shading, but not quite. I mean, you can do your routes, your route planners, and all that kind of stuff on here, but not quite as much as far as how you can add all the colors and all that stuff yet. Very well could be something they're working on. I have not got an official word on something like that yet. Does anybody else have any other questions? All right, guys. Looks like that's all the questions, or that's all I've seen so far. I do appreciate everyone joining in. Like I said, try to keep it short and sweet. Just something to take our mind a little bit off everything that's going on in our country right now, and enjoy just kind of talking fishing. I will stay. If you want to go back and look over everything we did again, this thing will be put on the Navionics YouTube channel, and it will also be stored on the Navionics website. Along with it, if you could go back and keep checking, there's going to be a ton of there's webinars offered every month from different anglers, different pro guides, elite anglers, that sort of thing over different topics. And also, if there's any other topics you'd like covered, you know, feel free to hit me up. It's Stanley at Navionics.com. You actually should have it, you know, from a sign up for the webinar. Any topics you'd like to see covered, or you know, things you feel like you may not see on the Navionics YouTube channel, which is another great tool while we're talking about it, is that Navionics YouTube channel. There's a ton of different topics that we've done webinars over, done videos on. I mean, whether it's based on looking at doing hey, how does this work on my Lowrance? How does this work on my Humminbird? How does this work on my Garmin? All that stuff, a lot of that stuff's been covered. So be sure to check that out. Like I said, if you need anything, feel free to hit me up. Just Corey Stanley on Facebook, or cstanley at Navionics.com. I appreciate everyone joining in.